really interesting panel this afternoon. So I was just actually reflecting after lunch there, some of the things that we've covered today already, you know, right across from innovation and change at the beginning of the day. And then we've heard a lot about teams working together in hotel operations. We've heard a lot about the technology used. And we've also, you know, had some interesting ideas around lifetime value of customers. Now in this panel, we want to focus back in on the guest. And so I'm joined here on the stage with me today. So I've got Rebecca-Morgan-Ransom. Welcome. Rebecca is Head of Customer Success and Brand at Premier Inns for the Middle East region. Is that right, Rebecca?
Yeah, the Middle East. Yeah.
Great to have you here and see you in person as well after our chats on Teams. We've got Tal Shefer, who's VP Operations EMEA for Hilton. We were sharing notes about former colleagues, but great to have you here, Tal.
Thank you very much.
And then last but not least, we've got Sama Khalil, who's Director of Sales and Marketing for CARLTON Hotels and Suites here in Dubai. Welcome, Sam.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I'm glad to be here.
Good, good. And so I think one of the things that would be interesting to explore here is, you know, our title here is What Do Guests Really Want? But what I'd like to start to dig down a little bit with you all is talk about value and what do guests value with your different hats on. And so maybe just start a little bit with, tell us a little bit about yourselves, your role, and also put that lens on it, you know, thinking about your guests and what they value. Rebecca, why don't you get us going?
Sure. So I've been here in the Middle East for 7 years, working in hospitality, always with Premier Inn Middle East. So my background is in marketing, so I've been applying that to the Premier Inn brand whilst I've been here. And many of you may be familiar with the Premier Inn brand in the UK. It's very strong, more than 800 hotels. And here in the Middle East, we find that our guests are very similar. They're very value-driven. We stay true to our core of, whilst they're value-driven, they also want quality and consistency in their stay as well. So it's important for us to ensure that value is not compromised by the quality and consistency of the product here as well.
That's great. Well, we'll definitely dig a bit deeper on some of that as we go into the session. Tal, what about on your side and thinking about the complexity and the breadth of the number of brands that you represent under the umbrella of Hilton? How do you answer a question around what do guests value?
Yeah. So good afternoon, everyone. Thank you. My name is Tal. I look after brand operations for Europe, Middle East, and Africa for Hilton. I've been with Hilton for many years, nearly 25, 26 years now. And we operate, as many of you know, as many of my colleagues here in the room know, we operate in multiple markets, over 140 different countries and territories today, around 8,600 hotels globally, kind of keep counting. And I think for us, it's really about personalization and, you know, with the breadth of brands that we have all the way from our luxury, whether it be more traditional luxury like Waldorf Astoria and Conrad Hotels, through some of the more newest lifestyle brands like Graduate by Hilton, Nomad, all the way to a much more value-conscious customers like Hampton by Hilton, which represent nearly 4,000 hotels for us globally. For us, it's really about kind of identifying the customer expectations, needs, thinking about what really makes the stay for them, and how to bring that to life as we think about cultures, both where the geographies where we operate, the customer with which we interact, and ultimately kind of maintaining and delivering against that brand promise, and we'll talk a little bit about how we do that a bit later, but what's the brand promise that leads everything that we do at Hilton. Great,
thanks Tal. And Sam, on your side, regional brand, very different space from the Hiltons, but tell us a little bit about your role and also thinking about how you deliver value for your guests.
Yeah, definitely. Again, thank you for having us here today. I'm glad to be here and share and learn from the knowledge of others. Basically, my background goes to front office operations and hospitality. I've been there more than 25 years overall in hospitality. A bit of background in IT and sales and marketing recently. So I had the sales and marketing department in the CARLTON hotels and suites in Dubai. And you know, as a local brand, our aim, maybe I can rephrase the question: what do I want as a client, as a guest? Because, you know, at the end of the day, we are all traveling and we know what we want. So we have to put ourselves always in the guest's shoes, what he or she wants. And based on that, we also, like, you know, take care of the let's say, value for money of the guest, especially like a local chain, and we compete with, we know, with chains, with others. So the value for money is very important. Diversity of services that we maybe like dive into more details later on.
Great. Well, maybe I stick with you then in terms of asking a bit more, because you know, one of the differences when I look at the profiles of all of you is that your brands are, you have deep regional footings, if you like, foundations. So do you find that then your local guests, people coming from within the region, have very different needs and values and expectations from customers that are coming from outside of the region? And how are you dealing with those different needs, if there are some?
As a matter of fact, let me put Dubai into the scene. Now, when we talk about Dubai, whether it was like local chains or international chains, the competition is fierce. And for you as a local brand, you must put yourself. I do not have that name, international name, to rely on, but we have the service, we have the excellence, we have the standard that we usually deliver to our clients. So the guest comes to Dubai, there is always already high expectations in Dubai, regardless of you staying in a local chain or international chain. There's always high expectations. We always face a lot of demands from the guests who come to Dubai, stay in the hotel. And what makes a difference as well is location of your hotel. The location is very important in Dubai, basically. Whether you are a family traveler or you're a business traveler, it makes a lot of difference because of the ease of access, transportation, etc. So we really bank on our own efforts to shine and to standardize all our services to the limit that the guest is looking for.
That's great. Well, picking on that then, by contrast, Rebecca, because I imagine a lot of your customers know you because of your brand in the UK, which is where you have the majority of your hotels. What's the experience like? How different is it here versus it is in the UK, and how do people react to that?
Yeah, so as I mentioned earlier, we try and stay quite close to our core principles. Our key selling points is a great night's sleep and a great breakfast. But what we find, our guests in the UK or Europe, very familiar with the brand. They come to the Middle East, and it's a surprise and delight when they arrive at Premier Inn hotels in Dubai and Abu Dhabi and Qatar. They've got the same core room product elements, so they've still got the high quality bed, amenities in the rooms, but there's also the added extras of the extra facilities here of swimming pool, gym, room service, and those extras that are kind of standard here for mid-market hotels. Whereas guests who are coming from the Middle East, those facilities are standard for them, so that's what they expect when they come to any hotel in Dubai. We've been fortunate, so we opened our first hotel in Middle East more than 15 years ago, and the mid-market segment then was quite small. It was all luxury 4-star, 5-star hotels. However, with the addition of more mid-market brands like the Hampton, like Rove Hotels, it's allowed our guests to have a better understanding of what mid-market means in the region as well. So it's getting better in the Middle East. They know what to expect now when they arrive at a mid-market hotel. It's not all the bells and whistles of the 4- and 5-star hotels. And it's still a nice surprise for our European guests as well.
And what about service delivery in terms of, I think it came up in our very first panel this morning. We were talking about ratios of staff to guests, but how do you find, I don't know whether I think you said you came from the UK. Have you worked in the UK business as well?
Not in Premier Inn UK, no, but experienced guest.
Yes, and I guess are there big differences there, and also do you feel that the service is different here from, for example, in the UK?
Yeah, there is a big difference in Premier Inn. people service in the UK as in the Middle East. In the UK, it's a very slim operating model. You may find that the person checking you in on the desk is then serving you breakfast the next morning. They may be operating the bar in the evening, whereas here in the Middle East, we're fortunate to have a larger pool of talent in hospitality, and it's still very much a people-led business here in the Middle East. So people want to see people when they arrive at the hotel. So it's well staffed, and they've got more teams in the restaurants, the housekeeping teams. There's a lot of people to service the stay here, which I think our guests appreciate as well.
Yeah, I'm sure. And so Tal, then, and what's coming to my mind now as we talk about this is you've got so many different brands to think about, but how do you manage to match guest expectations, given that they will have stayed in multiple brands, maybe in multiple locations in parts of the world, and then they come here and there's a particular way of doing things?
Yeah, I think for us, and we heard a lot this morning about the business win, which is people serving people at the end of the day, right? And we'll talk now a little bit about technology again in a minute. But for us, it's really about, first of all, ensuring that we give customer the choice and the control, regardless of which brand is staying, right? I mean, when you cross around the hotels, I just came back this morning. I was in Paris the last couple of days. We've opened one of our newest luxury hotels there, LXR. And, and you see literally every geography, multiple languages. You see people who are, very much vacating with shorts and flip-flops versus someone who, is on a business meeting. And you kind of have to augment all of that into an experience that customer have the choice. So for us, it's really about understanding what those touch points around our brand organization, if you want, right? And at the end of the day, we work very closely with our customers. We have, I think last time I checked, it's about 210 million Hilton Honors loyalty customers, right? And we ask them a lot, what makes the stay for you? And making sure that we listen to those. And at the end of the day, it's not simple because it's never easy, but it's really about being a friendly, authentic, reliable experience that gives me the choice to do what I need to do to be successful, whether it's on my leisure travel with my family, whether I'm celebrating a lifetime event, or whether I'm there on a business trip or otherwise. So for us at Hilton, we're really focusing on that human touch and human nature of our business, but also the balance on what we kind of made up a word called phygital, which is kind of the balance between the physical and the digital experiences. And we heard it just now earlier on stage, but we heard it throughout this morning, where it's not about replacing anything. It's really about creating that additional value for the customer. It's giving them the choice and the know-how to say, if I want to be much more digital in my experience, then I can do that. Or if I'm looking for much more personalized and a one-to-one kind of experience. And I think here, particularly in the Middle East, this is a great place for us to trial a lot of those things. Just as Rebecca said, because we have access to a much richer and wider pool of talent than we see maybe in other parts of the world, but also the diversity of our customers. So again, even this lunchtime, for those, I'm sure you've seen, there was people leisuring, coming out of the pool, having lunch, and then there was us, dressed up, breaking in our meeting, right? So kind of figuring out what that looks like and making every customer successful, I think it's really what drives us in that sense.
Great. I'm going to steal your term, phygital.
Phygital.
I like that. But that's a good segue actually into the next thing I wanted to ask about, which is I've written here, technology, a help or hindrance. Tell us a little bit about that, maybe starting with Hilton, and maybe how do you see both during the stay, but also in what happens before the stay?
Right. I think the pre-stay, and as we call it in our internal terminology, is kind of the dream stage, right? So when you go and you start to explore, and again, I may be celebrating my my wedding, my anniversary, my family occasion, or I may be going on a business trip to a location I've never been before, or indeed if I'm going to an important business exchange and I want to be at my best, right? So that kind of dream stage. So for us, it really starts there, and then you move into the kind of the shop and the stay and all of that. But one great example is about 24 months ago, following a very detailed research, global research that we did with our customer, one thing that came up is particularly around when our customers travel with their families on leisure, and I know that I've got 3 young kids, and I always struggle to find the rooms that are next to each other or connecting or guaranteeing and all of that. You always have to kind of send this email before, and they'll say, we'll try our best and all these things, right? So we've invested heavily in technology to enable our customers to what we call confirm connecting rooms. So essentially at your shop window, when you go to our website, to our application, you have a choice to book 2 rooms, and we will do our best to try and locate them next to each other, or you can choose to confirm that at that point of booking. Not only that provided customer the choice, and we got an amazing feedback from customers on how easy that was to do, but actually it's generated, we do now over $1 million a day in that connected room initiatives. So we have customers who are willing to pay that additional 10, 15 US dollars to say, yeah, I've got those 2 rooms allocated, it's mine, I don't have to worry about it, I don't know, my kids can be next door or my family members. So that's one part of innovation. And then it goes through other things, through the stay, the arrival, again, giving the customer the choice to say, would you like to check in and use your phone as your key card, or would you like us to welcome you? And then our job is to then find the best ways to enhance whether, if a customer chose digital experience, as in I check in online, I don't see anyone, I go straight to my room, I don't see anyone when I check out, and it's completely digital. How do we still build those touch points to bring that physical element? And vice versa, if a customer is completely not interested in technologies, how do we then still make them the choice of that? So
yeah, it's a tough balancing act, isn't it? Sam, on your side, how are you using technology in the hotels and also before people arrive?
Yeah, well, going back to your question, whether it's hindrance or advantage to your operations in the hotel, basically it becomes hindrance if it's too complicated, technology in general. So what people look at, or look at clients or guests, are searching for something seamless, easy to use, user-friendly. And this is the focus. So we try to invest in the technology that serves the purpose without any complications, because you do not expect the clients to be tech-savvy. You expect them to, you give them an option at the end of the day. It's an option. So that also goes under the diversity of services that you provide to the clients. When it comes to, for example, let's talk about the very front, end of the equation, the marketing and sales before the guest comes to the hotel. We promise, we market, we advertise, services, but we have at the end meet those expectations, meet what we promised. We have to deliver what we promised. So with technology, I think it's a big enabler. Let me call this enabler to the client, to the hotel staff, to the hotel employees, that gives them empowerment. It becomes hindrance if it becomes, something that they rely on. You don't depend on. We don't be like, AI or technology dependent, rather than empowered by technology and AI. That's the key difference from my side. So we build on that, and we educate our employees, and communication. That also goes very, very, very important. With all these technology, if there's no proper communication, interdepartmental communication with the clients, asking questions, this will never be successful. So it should be always taken this in perspective.
I like that, and it's using technology to help your colleagues help guests,
exactly.
As well as using the technology directly as well. Interesting. So Rebecca, I'd like to pivot a bit and talk a little bit about designing for customer experience, and so in the UK market, you're known because of the reliability, consistency, those sorts of attributes in terms of your brand. How does that play in here, and how does that balance against that higher touch service that you described before?
So as we mentioned, we use the UK a lot for our research and product development. So our product is mainly developed there, and then we bring that product over here to the Middle East. But we have kept our core. So we're all about a great night's sleep. We're all about a great breakfast, and we're here to top and tail the day of our guests. So we're not here to fulfill the middle part, the day part. The guest starts the day with us, they go off and do what they want to do, and then they come back at the end of the day and have their catch up with their friends, family, colleagues. So it's a very similar experience for our guests in the UK as their purpose when they come to the Middle East as well.
Yeah, and I'm sure that resonates everywhere. It made me think that a lot of the way in which we build relationships with customers is about trust and confidence. And you described it as well, Tal, in terms of people knowing what they're going to get or having confidence in what they get, and that builds then trust with the brand. And loyalty the same. Yeah, it's important for us to maintain those core principles of our brand and not adapt too much. We adapt to the region and what's required culturally, but yeah, we all have the guest's need in mind. But the guest that comes to Premier Inn, they want to know what they're going to get when they arrive. Very good. And so, Tal, then let me challenge in a different way on that one, because if you look at a global brand like McDonald's, for example, that's known to everyone, and they do an amazing job of a sort of cookie cutter approach everywhere, in that you know what it is and you kind of know what you're going to get, but they also reflect regional nuances by through their menus. Do you do the same at HILTON?
You absolutely have to, particularly if if you're serious about playing in a truly global field, right? A great example for us here from the Middle East will be actually our Hampton by Hilton, which is one of our largest, or the largest brand we have in terms of number of hotels. We now have nearly 4,000 hotels globally with Hampton. It's our #1 franchised hotel recognized brand in the world after Coca-Cola and Amex, #1 hospitality brand. And so when our first few outside of the US opened in the UK, because that's a great place to launch a brand of that locale. But then when we launched here in the UAE, we had two projects, one here in Dubai Airport, which very quickly became, as you always do here in Dubai, the biggest in the world. So an average Hampton by Hilton hotel, for those of you who may have experienced in the US, is about 100 to 150 keys, very simple. There's a complimentary free breakfast, cold breakfast, and pretty much that it's a really reliable, solid, brand. And you come into Dubai Airport and suddenly we have a restaurant and we have a bar and we have 24 hours room service and you have all these kind of things, right? And before we even realized what that meant for us here in Dubai, we then opened our one in Ras Al Khaimah, and that became yet the other biggest one in the world and the first all-inclusive resorts in Hampton. And I can tell you a lot of our EC members lost a lot of nights of sleep on, oh my God, this is completely going to kill the brand, right? Because then you start sending people to Ras Al Khaimah, they have an all-inclusive experience in a Hampton by Hilton, then they go to, I don't know, Tennessee or Denver or even Germany, and they don't experience it. But our job as a hotelier is exactly that, is to keep really true through design. So we heard earlier this morning, I think the first session was about design. So our design is very true from a product quality. And you walk into that hotel, any of the hotel, you know exactly where you are. There's those physical cues that allow our customers to really recognize where they are. There's the whole piece around pre-arrival marketing, communication, allowing customers to really understand why they're going to experience a restaurant in Dubai versus not having one in London, for example. But most importantly, it's the execution on the ground. At the end of the day, it's how our team members engage in the business. How do we portray our culture, the way we dress, the way we speak, the way we interact. And actually, it's been an amazingly successful experience for us, and we replicated that model in other parts of the world, like Eastern Europe, Northern Europe, and we haven't actually seen a negative. In fact, we've seen a much more positive impact. The customer loved it, and it still gives them the reliability that we talked about earlier, the consistency, because they know it, they're in a Hampton, they know exactly what to expect, but they also appreciate the local deviation. So for us, it's about really keeping really disciplined, always in every one of our brands, to identify what's the core, how the customer knows they're in the Waldorf versus a Nomad versus an LXR versus a DoubleTree or whatever you, and then making sure that we express that through genuine, authentic experiences and services with our customers. So.
Great, that's really good. Now, Sam, on your side, you're up against these two brand behemoths in their own space, and you're a local brand. How do you know, what are the things that you can bubble to the top that actually make you different and make people choose you?
Yeah, maybe I can just give you like a bit of history of going back to COVID-19. We had 5 hotels in Dubai running. I was in charge of 5 hotels, 1 5-star and the rest of 4-star hotels. When COVID hit, 4 of these hotels shut down, as many in town and the world as well. 1, continued operating. Why? Because of the diversity of services that hotel presents to the client. So going back again, what does the guest expect? In one hotel, in one single hotel, I can cater to families, I can cater to businessmen, I can cater to leisure market, I can cater to name it. So that hotel stood out and it's remained the one that's not closed because it catered to many different clientele and expectations. Now, what do we count on? As I mentioned earlier, we are against not only the giants, for example, in hospitality in Dubai, we are against 164,000 rooms in Dubai. And when the season hits, you must stand out, And I'm telling you, it does, you're a local chain, but you're not selling cheap because your location as well is the biggest challenge to us as sales and marketing to give value for the guest. If you are a guest staying in a hotel and pay 100 dirhams, sometimes you feel that this is too much. But maybe you stay in another hotel with 1,000 dirhams and you're satisfied. So the value for money here plays. Like what we do, for example, we have the different nationality, restaurants in the hotel, like specialty, Lebanese restaurant, we have Indian restaurant, we have a Cuban cigar plus bar, we have a lounge, overlooking Burj Khalifa. That is also it's an amazing view. So that's what we cater, experience to the client. Though sometimes it comes with some negative misunderstanding. We go back to marketing. Guests look at the hotel and they see Burj Khalifa. Everyone expects to come to the hotel and see Burj Khalifa from the window. And when the new year comes, I want Burj Khalifa. This is what you guys advertise. So this is how things come. But basically, yes, we depend on our own strength and service. We want the guest to leave the hotel with experience that makes an impact, not comes to the hotel and goes as a room number. And especially when you have lots of rooms in the hotel, 400 or 500 rooms, people usually tend to deal with guests as room number, while personalized service is the core. So we greeting the guest by name, smiling with the guest, talking to him, asking about his stay, ask questions, makes it a lot of difference here.
Very good. Thank you, Sam. So just really then to wrap up the session, I wanted to ask you each to try and describe a mind share shift, so something that's changing, and this is looking forward, or a trend, if you like. As you look forward in the next year or 2 years, what do you think is going to drive some change in the way you operate or the things you do? Rebecca, you're closest to me. I'll start with you.
Yeah, I think we've seen recently, and I think this will happen over the next few months and years as well, more challenges from the guests on the traditional hotel ways of working. We've seen recently the guests are questioning, why is check-in at 3 o'clock? Why is check-out at 11 o'clock? I want to check in earlier. My flight is coming in at 4 a.m. So it's like how we make that work operationally, how we make it work commercially, and then how we respond to that guest request as well. Similarly, like breakfast options, some guests are not just satisfied with a breakfast buffet, they want something extra, they want a la carte menu, they may want breakfast in the room, they may, it's challenging the traditional ways of working and how, as an industry, we respond to that and what can we offer whilst keeping the guest happy, but also commercially and operationally keeping the hotel happy as well.
Those are great examples and not easy to overcome either.
No, they're not.
How about you, Tal?
Yeah, I was going to kind of touch on a similar one, but two things I think majorly are and will continue to impact our industry and not just Hilton. We internally at Hilton often refers to us, to the time in which we operate today as kind of the golden age of travel, and I think that will continue. Right, post-COVID, we saw an amazing recovery. I think we kind of coined the term revenge travel at the time. People were locked down, you know, they just said, you know, this is crazy, let's just go and enjoy life. We're still seeing that, probably not as revengeful maybe as it was shortly after, but we're seeing an amazing patterns of travel, particularly new customers, particularly coming from, you know, parts of the world that haven't quite had the opportunity to explore the rest of the world or even their own countries. And we're seeing it through both, you know, numerical numbers, as in not just stays, but how many customers are joining our loyalty programs or repeat stay and all this stuff. But also on Rebecca's point, I think we absolutely, and we're already seeing it, we're seeing the challenging of the boundaries, the status quo. And, you know, at Hilton, for example, one of the things we are very invested in is to give customer the choice and the control that they want, is to move away from make a reservation, you know, arrive at whatever, 2 o'clock, depart at 11, actually allowing them to say, I want to stay for 27 hours and start being able to digitalize your journey to say, well, actually I'm going to arrive at 10 o'clock because my flight lands at 8, but I don't need the room until 11 o'clock, I may need it until 4 p.m. and start really curating that experience. And that goes beyond that into the food and drinks and the experiences and whatever that may well be. And I think that is where technology really comes in to help us move. But I think those are the two major things that we're seeing. So
great. And Sam, how about on your side?
Well, the question of what we expect to happen, what we'd like to see, I would like to see, you know, technology and, you know, human intertwined and serve the guest. And, you know, that will happen only with lots of training, awareness, educating the clients before educating even the staff. So keeping the levels of, you know, your services is very important. The expectations of the client is growing higher and higher each year. And the more rooms, the more competitiveness you have in the market, the more, you know, guest expectations and the more choices they have. So you have to stand out, whether you're local or not local chain. You have to stand out with your services and your, you know, your hotel. And that only comes through the hotel human element. You know, we always say, for example, we often talk about AI, technology, and, you know, and all these things, but it's only the human touch that turns those things into a meaningful services to the guest. That's the core focus.
Very good. So I've heard some really thought-provoking things there. I love this idea of our guests challenging us and that being something that we have to actually respond to rather than just being people that are there and fill the rooms, but they're actually challenging us. I think that's a really interesting idea. I think we're at time now, but ladies and gentlemen, please join me thanking
you very much.
Thank you.
Sam,
Thank you very much.
Tal,
Thank
and
you,
Rebecca.
Thank you very much.